What's a NSFW detail about a historical figure that's normally left out of the history books? Churchill was a bit of a nudist. He claimed to have some form of skin condition that made clothes uncomfortable to wear for long periods. When he visited the White House, he would sit around naked while having discussions with FDR. Benjamin Franklin liked to take air baths, which meant sitting in the window of his London house with the windows open minus totally nude. I have visited that very house, which is now a museum, and stood in that very window. They are big Georgian-style windows, and I suspect that anyone in the house opposite, or possibly even glancing up from the street from the right angle / direction, would have seen the full founding father. The great magician Houdini once escaped a prison cell while fully nude as to not hide anything to escape. However, what the guards failed to check was that he hid a skeleton key in his ass checks. I mean, it's pretty well known, but not something that you'd be taught in school. JFK fucked. Obviously there was Marilyn Monroe, but apparently he also had a thing for prostitutes, that thing being his presidential penis. He has been quoted by a British Prime Minister as saying, "If I go 3 days without a lay, I get a headache." Leonardo da Vinci kept poems and jokes about penises. During 1942, in a war-planning visit to Washington, a British delegation including Winston Churchill stayed at the White House. The president wheeled into Churchill's bedroom one afternoon to discover the Prime Minister stalking the room in the nude, puffing on a cigar as he dictated to a male secretary. As Roosevelt spun about to leave, Churchill called him back, adding, "The Prime Minister of Britain has nothing to conceal from the President of the United States." Edit. Wow. My first popular post. Source for this story: Cray, E. 1990. General of the Army, George C. Marshall Soldier and Statesman. Kindle ed. 253. Cooper Square Press. Raphael, the Italian painter, not the Ninja Turtle, is believed to have died from exhaustion from non-stop sex. Simon Bolivar had sex in every country he went with different women, and it's explained with details in his biography. He was a really good dancer. Gouverneur Morris wrote the language to much of the Constitution, including the preamble. He also had a wooden leg because he broke it so bad it had to be amputated. The accepted story is that his leg was caught in the reins of his horse as they got spooked. But the rumor that went around was he broke his leg jumping from a window to escape the husband of a woman he was sleeping with. In revolutionary France, a crowd surrounded his carriage because they thought he was a French aristocrat. He took his wooden leg off and pointed it at them, saying he lost his leg in the pursuit of liberty. He also died from complications after using a whalebone as a catheter. James Joyce, famous Irish author / poet, had a very heavily documented and detailed relationship, via letters, with a chambermaid named Nora Barnacle. Nora eventually became his wife, and Joyce loved her for her curves and her huge ass. With Joyce traveling a lot, they had to endure a long-distance relationship and wrote many letters back and forth. They were in their early to mid-20s when they met, and this relationship continues. And like modern young people who can't help but sext and send sexual stuff to each other, James and Nora did that, and we have tons of sources / documentation for it. You may think, okay, so what? That's normal. Nothing too weird. Keep reading for the kicker of what makes this a bit different. They had a very sexual relationship where Joyce heavily discussed and fetishized / obsessed with both Nora's ass and her farts. He gets very detailed with what he wanted to do and reminiscing with all the things he did to his little whore, regarding her ass and her farts. Lots of fart porn and anal obsessions throughout these letters. Here are 2 sources that have the letters for you to destroy your eyes with. The first, https www.theparisreview.org /blog /2018 /2 James Joyce's Love Letters Dirty Little Fuckbud / along with. The second, https //alphatsinteresting.com / James Joyce Love Letters Nora Barnacle. And if you want some just short highlights of some of the most descriptive and dirty stuff, here you go. https://www.mentalfloss.com/article/74934/13 NSFW lines James Joyce's incredibly dirty love letters. Here are some fun lines/quotes. Minus at every fuck I gave you, your shameless tongue come bursting out through your lips, and if I gave you a bigger stronger fuck than usual, fat dirty farts came spluttering out of your backside. Minus you had an ass full of farts that night, darling, and I fucked them out of you. Big fat fellows, long windy ones, quick little merry cracks, and a lot of tiny little naughty farties ending in a long gush from your hole. Minus my sweet little Orish Nora. I did as you told me, you dirty little girl, and pulled myself off twice when I read your letter. I am delighted to see that you do like being fucked arseways. Minus good night, my little farting Nora, my dirty little fuckbird. There is one lovely word, darling, you have underlined to make me pull myself off better. Write me more about that and yourself. Sweetly, dirtier, dirtier. I read once that philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau would pull his pants down and chase after women running backwards in hopes they would spank him. It was his kink. Edgar Allan Poe married his 13-year-old cousin and would sleep in her coffin with her after she passed away. It's possible that 16th century samurai warlord Usuji Kenshin was actually a woman pretending to be a man so that her clan could survive her father's death. Kenshin never married or had any concubines, had to plan battles around regular monthly abdominal pain, and is referred to in the notes of a Spanish missionary as Simeon's tia, instead of tire, minus aunt, not uncle. Ben Franklin slept around and mostly stayed in France for the prostitution. William the Bastard's family was torn apart when his two youngest sons dumped a chamber pot on the head of his firstborn, leading to rebellions, wars, and eventually his firstborn's lifelong imprisonment. One of the members of the Lewis and Clark expedition was a slave named York. The tribes they came across were quite taken with him. He fathered many children during the trip. In school I was taught that Ben Franklin had a string of pearls that was several feet long. He would add a pearl to it each time he slept with a new woman. President Grover Cleveland, 49, married Frances Folsom, 21, in the White House. He was basically her godfather and even bought her a baby bed when she was an infant. She knew him as Uncle Grover as a child and told him she wanted to marry him in the White House one day. https://www.vox.com/2015/2/8,120,283 House of Cards married. The first thing the father of microbiology, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, put under a microscope was semen. They understood that semen was integral to the creation of life but didn't yet understand the concept of single-cell organisms. He fully expected to see tiny little humans in his jizz. So yeah, the first thing he did was whack off on a slide and look at it. Oscar Wilde described himself as addicted to sucking cock and said it inspired him. Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, who also popularized Gothic literature, used to meet up with her future husband, poet Percy Shelley, at the cemetery where her mother was buried. They would meet up and have angsty sex on her mother's grave. BC she was goth as hell. Moreover, Frankenstein was inspired by her fascination with reanimation, the idea of bringing something dead back to life. When she learned about this idea, she was obsessed with the idea of bringing back her baby who died days later after being born, thus sparking the idea of the monster of Frankenstein. Abigail Adams apparently spent a lot of time worrying that her son John Quincy Adams would jerk off or bang whores when he left the house, and advised against doing both in several letters to him. Paul Revere would ride from Boston to Newport Re to cheat on his wife. And Bonnie used to fight with one boob out, just to show that not only are you about to get murdered, but you are about to get murdered by an 18-year-old girl. Gaius Julius Caesar was a huge player. He slept with at least one woman in every town he visited according to his soldiers. He slept with the Queen of Egypt. He slept with his rivals, Cato the Younger's sister. He also slept with a mother and her daughter, not at the same time. This was fitting as he claimed descent from Venus, the goddess of love and lust. Hitler took amphetamines to stop farting. Some historians think that's why he became increasingly erratic toward the end. He was in withdrawal. Ben Franklin had tons of sex with many women. He even wrote some sex advice in some of his books. Mozart wrote songs about licking ass. George Washington had severe hemorrhoids, to the extent that he couldn't even ride a horse into battle sometimes, and had to be pulled on a cart. After Alois Alzheimer gave the first ever speech describing the symptoms of what would later become known as Alzheimer's disease, no one in the audience asked him any questions or made any follow-up comments, despite the fact that this was quite literally one of the most important presentations ever given in the field of medicine. For real, Alzheimer's disease affects about 6% of people aged 65 and older. https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/Alzheimer%27 It's a big deal. So why did no one pay it much attention? Turns out they were all much more focused on the next guy on the docket, who, allegedly, was there to talk about compulsive masturbation. The Diary of William Burdett, http://nationalhumanitycenter.org/pds/becomingdummer/economies/text5/William by He talks about his wife being depressed, so he gives her a flourish and she feels better. That's an orgasm. Greater than on April 1711. He noted in his diary that although he discovered his wife in a melancholy mood, the powerful flourish he delivered filled her with great ecstasy and refreshment. He recalled one morning during which I lay in my wife's arms while, during another, his wife kept me so long in bed that I rode at her. https://www.theparisreview.org/blog/5/13/Roger that/. Subscribe, like and comment if you hate outros, begging you to subscribe, like and comment.